Greetings, Aquarius. This one is for you. Hi, that's you, Aquarius. This is your September 2017 Love and Relationship Report from Tarot Lumination. We're going to pretty much dive right in. No jumpers, no flyers, no reversals. Probably not going to do any oracles. And not much talk about the astrology at the moment, okay? We've had a lot of that lately. And we're going through a slightly quieter spell now through the Virgo season. And the eclipse energy is unfolding regardless. So let's just get on with it anyway, because that's what we all have to do. I call this a crucible spread because we're dealing with love and relationship. We're hoping to have maybe another playlist for singles specifically, but we're not sure yet. We'll see what happens. A lot of people have been writing and asking, what about singles? Well, it's a very different type of reading from my perspective. And I'm not sure if I try to mush too much of it into one reading, it gets a little clumsy. Anyway, this is your energy, okay? This is a person of interest, a significant other. Here's deep inside of you. Here's deep inside the other. And here is the energy of the relationship itself. Can you see that we have a crucible here? A crucible is like a safe place or a structure of some kind that is specifically in a chosen relationship. It represents the structure in which you conduct your relationship. Obviously, in a really healthy relationship, the crucible is strong and both parties conduct themselves through the relationship, as opposed to one-to-one, okay? They invest in the relationship. Let's see what happens. And here's the momentum. And we're going to look at the bottom card in a moment for the weather that's surrounding the reading, okay? We'll see how it goes. What we have is the Empress, okay? So Aquarius, just pretend this is weather here. And the Empress is moving around. And you might be in a situation where you're seeing or feeling the potential. The Empress represents, let's say, maximum abundance, maximum ability to create and procreate and be beautiful and enjoy being beautiful, enjoy being rich, handsome, abundant, whatever it is, and shamelessly radiating that energy around themselves, okay? It's the card of fertility, of lusciousness, of earthly beauty, of earthly wealth, earthly abundance, physical beauty, and all of that. So you might be feeling that around you, and you don't have to let the energy own you. If this is out there, but you're not feeling that way, maybe the energy is indicating that it's okay for you to feel this way and be this way and live this way. If you are feeling that way, and it's simply because of the weather, just understand that you don't want to let the weather own you. In other words, just because it's beautiful right now for you, and you might be resonating accordingly, weather does change. And it's really good to feel abundant and luscious, loving and loved from the inside out, regardless of the weather, okay? Let's have a look at you and your energy in particular. Okay, truth-seeking time now. So with you, Aquarius, this is like opportunity season right now. In one way or another, in one aspect of your life somewhere, specifically in the context of relationship, you have it's like you have a golden opportunity now to like recalibrate from the ground up and live a much more truthful like existence. This is really your energy, and it is going to permeate through the relationship, but this is very, very much about you and your own energy here. And of course, how the other relates to that is a whole other matter. But if you are like coming to, like, let's say, not a blinding awakening or a shocking awakening, but to a profound realization that in some way you're in a really, really good place right now. It's just like everything is aligned. to have a new start, a new beginning that is based much more on truth and fact, of what works for you, what is the most healthy and abundant and joyful and luscious way for you to be, okay, as opposed to what it's like for everyone else. Now, you know, of course, as an Aquarius, that you've been dealing with all this massive pile of Leo energy opposing you in the 7th house of relationship. So you're coming out of that now, and it's like we're dealing with the energy now of your 8th house, where what do you do inside the relationship? Okay, it's wonderful to fall in love and be happy and all of that, and then go to maybe the next level where you have a significant committed relationship. But then there's the level beyond that where you're talking about deep intimacy for the long term, where you have to be able to endure in the context and the structure of a stable relationship in such a way that your natural way of being, which would be to intimate and separate, intimate and separate, intimate and separate on a regular, healthy basis, that would be perfectly normal in any healthy relationship. In other words, in a very like codependent relationship, you'd be like this all the time, and you couldn't cope without that, and that can be very debilitating for both parties. And that's what you might have been dealing with now, and it's over. And my feeling here with the reading so far is that it doesn't have to be that way. You've got a chance now to recalibrate. So that natural process of intimacy and separation, we intimate, we separate, can now be totally recalibrated in a way that's much healthier for you, much more truthful, much more in accordance with the laws of the universe, so to speak, as opposed to the dictates of others or the circumstances, conditions, and protocols of pre-existing relationships before all this big eclipse energy. In other words, Aquarius, it's okay to stand totally in your truth now, regardless of the other party. You know, it's like they have their life, you've got your life, and if there is a chosen relationship, no matter how uncomfortable it might be, this is an opportunity for you to recalibrate at the most deep level possible inside the relationship. Okay, let's have a look at the other. Okay, well, from their perspective, they might be feeling that, well, okay, we've lived this one out. In other words, the movie might be over as far as they're concerned. It might be just wonderful as far as they're concerned. In other words, everything is turning out exactly as it should be, and that's just wonderful for them. However, turning out exactly wonderful the way it should be for them may be quite different to how things are for you. In other words, from their perspective, as you make conscious, deliberate decisions to tap into your truth, tap into this opportunity coming up here in September to live this way, to honor your absolute core truth self, it could feel to the other like, oh my gosh, what's my Aquarian doing? Who do they think they are now? Like claiming their own life, their own rights, their own identity, their own way of being that might be in total defiance of what I thought was the relationship. In which case, oh my gosh, that could mean it's all over. And it's like ready to file in the history books, like it's over. It might have been over long ago before you actually realized it was over, but you might be realizing here, I'm sorry, not you, but the other person might be realizing that this is over and the whole thing is now fully complete just the way it should be. And if they're in a very, very awkward position because of that, then that's their problem. It's not your problem, Aquarius, that's their problem. Because we're talking about people who choose to be together. So let's have a look. By the way, with the sense of completion here, it's on the understanding that it's almost like it couldn't be any other way, because sometimes, like with these big major arcana cards, it can feel like everything's fated. In other words, they might be thinking, I didn't have any say in this. Wait a minute. It's over. I'm living, I'm witnessing, I can feel that it's over, but what about me? What about me? And the reality is, that's their problem. The reality is, everything is exactly as it should be. All the forces of the universe are lined up perfectly for them. And possibly the healthiest thing for them to do is accept that things might be over and it's time to move on and recalibrate, even if it means completely recalibrating the relationship, because there's certainly one massive chapter of life in this relationship that you, Aquarius, have with a significant other, where that massive life chapter is done. It's over, it's gone. Possibly very much to do with the eclipse type energy, where it's like a historical calendar moment now, this period in your life where it's very clear that part of your life is done over. So if it's done for them, it's probably done for you too, because you can't really sustain this type of relationship if it's completely over for the other person. You might have residual stuff that needs to be taken care of. If there are, some people get deeply enmeshed in a relationship where you're talking about finances, mortgages, family connections, children, relatives, health issues, ongoing things like alimony or financial matters that linger for years. Okay, so you deal with that, but the actual energy of the relationship up until September, as you knew it, is essentially done. Okay, it's done for them, and then they have to deal with the consequences. Again, it's not your problem, Aquarius. It's their problem. You are now taking charge and living according to much higher standards of truth and integrity, and no longer being owned by, let's say, circumstance or conditioning or childhood attitudes, perceptions, and beliefs that are now redundant, worn out, gone. Let's have a look deeper. Okay, so if that's what's actually going on for you, Aquarius, it wouldn't surprise me to get the Four of Cups here. This card has been showing up a lot in a lot of readings. And I think it's because people are very tired and weary about all the transformational shifts that have been happening through the first half of 2017 and big chunks of huge tumultuous changes that were happening in 2016 and 2015, frankly. But the energy is shifting a lot right now, especially coming to the end of 2017. It's going to change more. So you might be deep inside kind of going through this like, oh, well, I guess it is over kind of stuff. Like, we did this, we did this, we did this, we had that much love, we had that much love, we had so much love that we shared together, but it's like, where did it all go? Where did it all go? Maybe we should have done this, could have done that, ought to have had this or whatever, but it kind of doesn't matter now, because somehow or other, you already know, Aquarius, that things are moving on. And there's no going back. Certainly not with the eclipse energy. There is no going back at all. Okay, so that could, as we separate from the things that were just our life for so long, that can feel like a loss. Like, even if it's something horrible, when it's taken away, you get a sense of loss. I mean, sometimes we get so tied up and identified so strongly with our pain, our suffering, our dramas, our tragedies, our stories, that when they become redundant or obsolete, or they get ripped away, eclipsed away, or torn away, or we lose them, or someone else takes them away and they're gone, then you can be left with a kind of a hole in your heart. But it's not the end of the world. It's the little Four of Cups here, and all we have to do, Aquarius, is remember that it's a question of perception. So I like to frequently use this card to illustrate the idea of energy flows where attention goes. So if you are focusing all your attention on the problems and everything that might have led to where you are now, and having the chance to start a whole new future with some truth and beauty and abundance to this level, that's wonderful, Aquarius. But deep inside, you might be still dealing with lingering sorrow about what could have been or what should have been. Well, that's understandable. We're human beings. We live in this continuum thing that we call time. So it's moving along anyway. And inside of you, as an emotional being, I know you tend to be very intellectual and you can deal with life in a very cool, calm, collected, and scientific way. But you do have a beating heart, Aquarius, and deep inside that beating heart, you may be hurting a little bit, okay? Because of certain things being over. But please don't let that be the end of the world. Please understand, instead of focusing on the problems, you have the opportunity to focus on the solutions. And we always know here on Terra Illumination that the ultimate answer is love, the healing power of love, being ready, willing, and ready, willing, and able to accept the healing power of love into your life, which of course is already right there for you, just sitting right there off to the side. And it only requires a shift in perspective, which is totally possible now with your new upgraded Aquarius Mark II energy coming into being, okay? So we'll get onto that later, perhaps in October or November. But for now, if you're feeling a little bit gloomy and sad about what's happening from your heart perspective, it's understandable. It's okay. What's about? Let's have a look what's going on inside of them. Oh, you see, they might be in the same situation. So it might have been kind of an epic, let's say an experience, a chapter, a life chapter that both of you might have shared. And there's no question that it's over. And things are going to change and shift and move on, okay? Because it's definitely appearing that way for this person of significance over here with you, Aquarius. Because you're over here being true and honest and seeing the new perspectives unfolding for you in the context of this relationship. In other words, here is the crucible of the relationship. This is a structure in which the relationship exists, in which instead of relating like this, you and the other, in the relationship, whether you knew it or not, you would have had a degree of structure where you related through the relationship. And we're discovering now in this particular reading that there might have been some very, very deep flaws in the relationship, which were unable to stand the test of time. And in some aspect, part of the relationship, maybe a significant chunk of the relationship, is over and restructuring is on its way. So, and that would be the energy of the relationship itself. But with the significant other over here, deep down inside, no matter how good things might have been, or no matter how bad things might have been between yourself and the other, it almost doesn't matter anymore, because it feels over here, from my perspective as your reader, that it's over and done with, and it's going to be time to move on. But they, deep down inside of it, even though they might not be showing it outwardly at all, they might be just carrying on as if everything is exactly perfect and all right, and they're just dealing with it, and almost like this is a glorious moment, okay? But instead, really, truthfully, deep down inside of themselves, there could be tremendous remorse, sadness, grief, because of the loss of what could have been or what should have been. In other words, this is your sort of morose, could have, would have, should have energy, like, oh God, if only, if only, if only. But they're probably feeling something fairly equivalent, but in their own way. They might actually be really deeply suffering inside, because the end of something very significant can be very traumatic and painful for people. And even if what you shared, let's say it started out really great and you had all sorts of, time and energy invested in each other and the relationship, only to discover that now here we are in September 2017, that this thing, this relationship thing, is essentially, looks like it's falling apart. It doesn't mean it has to be, but definitely big shifts and changes are coming, where there's a stark awareness that there's a lot of pain and sorrow and sadness deep inside both parties here. And they are so consumed with that side of it that they're not even really paying much attention to the potential of what lies ahead, because they might not see much hope or opportunity for what lies ahead, even though everything is completely over and they now have permission to completely start a new life. The reality is, if something did come to an ending, there might be a lot of residual energy that they're going to be carrying with them deep inside for a long time, which they might feel as grief, sadness, sorrow. And having the chance and finding ways to recalibrate so that they can come back to their own version of understanding that love is all there is, and that they, just like you, have the right to love in their lives. But they're definitely not aware of it at that moment, because they might be so consumed with the misery, okay? let's have a look inside. You see, again, remember, this is your reading, Aquarius, from Tarot Illumination about your love and relationship situation. This is not a couples reading. This is not a singles reading officially, though we could interpret it that way if you wanted to. We can talk about that later, but right now this is your reading about your situation. And the situation, although it does have this, I feel this is really bountiful, good for you and for the relationship itself. Okay, so like let's leave them dealing with their own issues over here, because this reading is for you, and we're going to look at the relationship itself now to see what's actually happening at the core. Okay, well, with the Hierophant here, to me, it's a strong indication that I'm going to have to give you a second perspective on this reading while we're here. Now, let me go back to my first perspective. My first perspective is that essentially with the chance for you to completely recalibrate and kind of open up the heart energy and admit what's going on with each other and coming into a truth and accepting and realizing there's a big life chapter that's ended, it might be that the relationship has to be formally ended. In other words, don't let it fall apart. With the Hierophant, it's very much to do with higher order, structure, and tradition, and ways of being, and learning and understanding that sometimes trump anything and everything else in our life and our world, and to the point where this could be a very humbling experience. In other words, the relationship itself, even though it might be over in some ways with the significant other, and you're starting all over again here with your potential new life, and there's grief and sorrow and pain and suffering inside both of you, then everything is over here in the context of the relationship itself. Everything is exactly as it should be according to code, according to universal laws, according to universal code, because the relationship itself could be treated as a massive learning experience where it is literally like being inside of a crucible where these natural energies of intimacy and separation brought both parties to a point of awareness where that life chapter is done in a very, very orderly way. And the question is just being able to accept it and live with that as though it had been ordained. Like pretend this is someone who has the authority to officially dissolve things for you in such a way where there's no going back and it is official and we accept it, okay? It's almost, some people call this the marriage card, but in my perspective here right now, it would be like the dissolution of marriage card. I don't want to put too much of a dark shadow on this reading. I'm just trying to give you some perspectives about the energy, and I'm using words like divorce and marriage, which are very, very specific words. I'm trying to keep it a little more loose than that, but it's such a strong card, and it's so official that it's hard for me to like dial back my perspective. But it feels to me that it's kind of official now, that it's time to move on and see where that goes and accept it as a divinely ordained situation. The relationship itself, in other words, the relationship is totally complete. It has lived its purpose. It doesn't have any reason to exist anymore. And if you try to reconfigure all this to make it work for you, as though you were starting all over again from scratch and like going back to naivety and innocence, it would be pretty much a waste of time, because all you're going to do is just keep yourselves bonded to a situation that might not be healthy or viable or workable. So what do you do with that? Okay, let's have a look. Okay, okay, Aquarius, we can see this as a golden opportunity. Okay, so if you're willing to take the perspective in a very, very, very cool manner, almost like an Aquarian approach. In other words, things are exactly as they should be, almost like a science experiment. And it's no wonder things are the way they are today right now in your relationship situation, Aquarius, where just accept the facts as they are. In other words, everything is exactly as it should be. It can't be any other way. So that's how it is and why it is the way it is. So if this is how it is, then instead of being ruined or destroyed or allowing yourself to wallow in misery all about a coulda, woulda, shoulda, or if only, if only, if only, if only, it's time to regroup, recalibrate, seize this as an amazing opportunity to own your own life and accept that they've got their stuff to deal with, okay? They're an individual person, and they have their rights to their own living and feelings and experience, their own life experiences, just like you. And really, it's not your problem whatever pain and suffering they might have to endure in this situation. This is your reading about you for a love relationship situation. So in the context of this reading, the way it's looking here is that this is actually a golden opportunity. Again, you combine these together to live according to a whole new truth, a complete recalibration of truth. What is the absolute truth now? What really, really works? What is true for you? Even if it means accepting that there might have been a lot of falsehood and illusions and fakery and all sorts of unacceptable things that are gone now. They don't need to be there anymore. So you have the opportunity to start from scratch in terms of attitudes, perceptions, beliefs, conditioning, understanding, and start brand new from scratch because you're much wiser now, and see this as literally a golden opportunity to make a new life, a whole new life based, it might look, your body might not change very much, your dwelling might not change very much, but your perspectives and your relationship and all your significant relationships are probably going to change significantly because there's such a strong energy here to indicate a complete and utter reboot for you, Aquarius, and there's no looking back. And it is almost like fated. It's almost ordained from above because of all these major arcana cards here. We're going to put these down here in a minute. I'm just going to leave this here for you because we're pretty much done with the reading now. I just want you to feel confident that however painful it might be, what happened in the past, it's done. It's history, okay? Just blame it on the eclipses, okay? It's gone. Everything is eclipsed away that you don't need anymore. Everything that was self-defeating, redundant, obsolete, it's gone. It's going. It's time to move on, make it official, and start life as a whole new opportunity, a golden opportunity to tap into this energy that we started with, okay? So I hope you get something out of that, Aquarius. Please reach for your sun, moon, rising. Make the best of September. It's a lot of big shifts and new starts for everybody. Same for you, Aquarius. Thank you for coming to Tarot Illumination. I love you guys. And we'll do this again, okay? Bye-bye. Have a good September. Bye-bye.